And what is the nature of your investigation, gentlemen?
We think you're smuggling drugs!
A few weeks ago, in my restless doom scrolling the internet, looking for any kind of ounce of serotonin that comes in wonderful art and memes, I found a post that changed the trajectory of my life for the better. Or at least what I think is the better. An art piece that depicts the character Tintin kissing another man. I didn't know much about Tintin as an American. All I know from him is from cultural mitosis, which that he traveled the world and had a dog sometimes. And when I first saw this, I thought, man, there really are people who will kiss any fictional character. Good for them. Thinking the other guy was just a self-insert or an original character. But after mild digging through the replies and seeing more of their art, I quickly discovered that this is a real character that is within the Tintin canon. A Chinese boy that appears in the original books named Chang. Now, you may be wondering who this guy is, which is natural since he only appeared in 2 out of the 24 books. But oh, those 2 books had a lot in store for me to discover. This is gay as hell. Okay, that's overstepping it. A comic series from the 20th century made by a straight man can't be gay, can it? Honestly, you'd be surprised by how many authors accidentally make their queer code stories without realizing it. But for Tintin in particular, I don't see many online spaces discussing this type of analysis. Well, except for Tumblr, but Tumblr has a vendor for everything. For something as big as Tintin in some areas, I'm surprised there aren't many articles or videos about their relationship. This unintentionally led me down a rabbit hole, looking for all the appearances Chang had. And when you're almost a century-old property like Tintin, you have a lot of adaptations. Movies, TV shows, video games based on movies, even stage plays. I scraped as much as I can because I believe that a queer reading of Tintin and Chang deserves to be shown, at least through my eyes. So, hey, hi, hello, I'm Toothpaste, and I like to talk about Tintin and his boyfriend that no one talks about. I'm assuming anyone clicking on this video already knows what Tintin is, but for my fellow Americans, I'll explain. The Adventures of Tintin is an adventure comic created by George Remy, who is mostly remembered by his pen name Hergé. His first book was published in 1929 with Tintin and the Land of Soviets, and making a total of 23 more books afterwards, until his death in 1983, and even then, he still made a new one in 1986 with Tintin and Alpha art, by Frankenstein a bunch of rough drawings and scripts together, and I can't retire even after death. Sad. But why don't we move on from Tintin, the franchise, and move on to Tintin, the character? Who is Tintin? What motivates him to get out of bed in the morning? And most importantly, does he like men? Does he have love interest in his various endeavors? Well, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, we don't really know much about Tintin. Even from his official website, his description is super vague. Tintin is neither a surname nor a first name. It's much more than that. Tintin is a totally unique world, a myth, or a saga. Tintin is created from Hergé's subconscious desire to be perfect, to be a hero. The hero who everyone between 7 and 77 years old wants to be, or become while reading The Adventures of Tintin. I guess screw 78-year-olds then. Nothing is mentioned about his family, his background, or his likes or dislikes. Not even how he met his beloved dog, Snowy. All we know is that he's a reporter for La Petite Vie Meme. And, as a quiff, I guess this gave the trend of giving your protagonist little to no backstory. But like how Ace Attorney does with Phoenix Wright, it doesn't make him bad or a boring character. He's still brave, has good heart, and can beat men twice his size. I mean, it's the original adventure protagonist, what could you want? The Adventures of Tintin is constantly described as a Boy Scout story, meaning that it's essentially pure boyhood fantasy in drawing form, sailing dangerous shores, exploring ancient ruins, taking down mobs with guns, and stuff like that. And in Boy Scouts, girls aren't exactly a main priority. I mean, it's called Boy Scouts for a reason. Because of this, the existence of women in the Tintin series is almost non-existent. Yes, there are female characters that fill in the background of group shots, but there are barely any who actually advance the plot or aid Tintin in any way. Name 5 female characters in Tintin.
That landlord lady, I forgot her name.
So you can't do it. I bring this up because the entire series follows Tintin's point of view. And from what we've seen, he doesn't have anything that fall under a category of a love interest. He doesn't get paired with any girls her age, nor does he comment on any girls that he comes across. Tintin is basically married to his work throughout the entire series, and he likes it that way. He has no time for bitches, he has to go to space. But that's not entirely true. In fact, the closest thing to a love interest he had is Chang. Okay, I've rambled long enough. I should actually cover his introduction story, and you'll see what I mean. The Blue Lotus is considered to be a major turning point in the series. It also marks the first time Tintin has made a friend while he was on his adventures. There is, of course, the original book from 1936, and an animated TV episode from the novella series in 1991. I'll be comparing the two since there will definitely be people who've only seen the TV show episode but haven't read the book, and vice versa. Same goes for Tintin in Tibet, except for a few extras that I'll get there when we get there. Okay, so it turns out while I was getting the comments from readers that there is more than one English translation. There's the printed ones that you use physical copies, and the app version, which is the one that I use. From what I've heard, the app is more direct with the original French version, so I'm just going to sit with that. It's more convenient for me. So if you see quotes or words that you don't remember being in there, that's probably why. A quick summary of what's going on. Tintin was in India when he got sent to Shanghai because of some poisonous drug that causes the person to be injected to act all crazy. Tuli Rato and Rastapopoulos, a recurring villain in Tintin universe, is ringleading the whole thing. I'm just gonna call them Mitz and Raz. From now on, I ain't gonna say all those syllables. They need to kill Tintin because he'll expose them for attaching drugs and doing some terrorism. Look, I don't want to do full recaps of Tintin because what I want to talk about is specific character interactions, and these guys don't matter. In the middle of the story, Tintin gets this letter from the bad guys telling him that Professor Fang, a man working on the antidote for the madness poison, is being held for ransom for $50,000 to a temple in Hukao. He does as the letter instructed, taking a train to this destination. The trip, however, comes to a halt when a flood washes out the line, causing everyone to walk the rest of the way there. Except the tracks leading there is already flooded. He's stumped until he sees the boys being swept by the river with wreckage surrounding him. He obviously doesn't know how to swim, so as the action boy hero he is, Tintin swoops in to save him. Thankfully, he's conscious and says that his name is Chang. Okay, let me go on a tangent about his design I am a big fan of. His most notable things about it being his hair, specifically his longer bangs giving him more of a proper silhouette and making him not look like the background characters we've seen before, and his tang being this bright green that helps him stick out amongst the red and china. And in his Tibet design, they allowed a yellow scarf, which I think blends the colors really well. I made a whole analysis about him and Tintin's color symbolism that I was going to put here, but the script is bloated enough as it is. So I made this separate tangent on my blog if you want to see my color theory classes be paid off. Of course, it's not perfect. His eyes being slits and closed half the time doesn't make it any better than all the other Asian characters we've seen, but for 1936, we can take what we can get for a minority character being a prominent role. Overall, I think it's a solid character design. Same can't be said about his animated voice, though.
You saved my life. How can I thank you, sir?
Making him sound this high-pitched and even making him look smaller compared to Tintin. Unintentional or not, it makes Chang look younger than he actually is. He's supposed to be the same age range as Tintin, which is elimination by 14 or 15. Here he's like 10 at the very most. The most likely reason, I think, is that they had a set list of actors that they had to use for budget reasons. My base for this is that I'm 90% certain that the woman who voiced Chang also voiced Snowy, who was originally going to have more dialogue, i.e. Garfield, shown in test pilot footage. But when they decided not to go with that decision, they still had her on hand and didn't bother hiring someone new.
It is easy to break one branch alone, but two together is much stronger.
Welcome to the world of Tintin. And me, Snowy. Woof!
Hey, wait, Chang looks normal in here. What the fuck happened? Another thing I'm sad is that they left out in the comics. Chang asks why Tintin saved him, thinking that white men are devils since his grandfather was killed in the Boxer Rebellion. Tintin reasons with him that not all white people are bad, that Europeans have villainized Chinese in a similar way, that propaganda deemed them as conniving schemers who torture women and children. Chang laughs this off and says that his people are funny for even thinking that way. It's a sweet moment about not judging a whole race based on past events and country propaganda, even though Tintin used the not all blank argument. With his parents and grandparents being dead and the orphanage he lived in being washed away, Loman has nowhere else to go to, so what's there to lose to following a guy who literally saved your life around for a bit? Tintin is naturally hesitant about the suggestion, since he is on a dangerous goose chase, but Chang argues that two heads are better than one and he knows a shortcut to Hukao, which is convenient. Cut to Mitz hiring Thompson to arrest Tintin for some classic framing of the kidnapping. They arrive at Hukao to stay with Chang's dad's friend, and the Thompsons decide to do some cultural appropriation. At least they're openly mocked by the townspeople and even Chang in the comics for their awful attire. They bring Tintin to the local police but realize they forgot the warrant. Chang gives it back to them, and once read, the officer laughs at Thompsons for kicking them out, causing Tintin to go free. Apparently, while they were inside, Chang swapped the paper with one he wrote himself that states that they're crazy, and this paper is proof. It's a really nice scene establishing the two, already making them a good crime-fighting duo, and seeing Tintin show genuine laughter and appreciation is a rare occurrence that I'd love to see. The next morning, they travel to the old temple, don't ask which one and never specify, where Tintin is said to talk to the kidnapper. Where it's pretty popular among tourists, even having a photo op where a photographer beckons them to take a picture, which is very, very not suspicious. Besides, he's probably the negotiator, so after this picture gets taken, they'll talk privately. JK, never mind, he's fine. It just hit Tintin's shoulder. I just noticed that Tintin and Chang do a lot of saving each other in this. Like, they probably met a few days ago at most, and it's implied that Tintin was in China for a solid month. In a short amount of time, these two are willing to do anything for each other. They go back to Shanghai and see why Mitz did that shit. And we get this cute moment in the show.
Tintin!
Yes?
Be careful!
Tintin overhears about his plan to kidnap the Wangs. They hatch a final plan. Go into barrels before the Wangs get decapitated by their own drug stun and barrage the smugglers. Catch Mitz and Raz with the help of the Thompsons, which means it's end of the line for them. At least for now. They celebrate the arrest of the two criminals by having a feast, toasting to Fang, finding antidotes to the poison, and welcome Chang into their family. Which leads him to saying one of the more iconic quotes in the book. There is a rainbow in my heart. I cry because Tintin is leaving, and I laugh at finding a mother and a father. Which is frankly kept mostly intact in the Vala show.
There is a rainbow in my heart. I weep because Tintin is going, but the sun shines because I have a new mother and father.
They and his new family have a tearful goodbye as Tintin sails into the distance. With all that covered, what do we know about Chang from what we have seen? In this short page alone, they cover his backstory, having a family that died while he was young and put in an orphanage, only for that to be taken away from him too. It was only a set of certain circumstances that he's even alive. Think about it, if Tintin wasn't on that train and didn't walk along the track, Chang could have drowned and never be seen again. He's adaptable even with these burdens, immediately stepping up to help Tintin with his venture because what else does he have going on for him? Chang is also shown to have a bit mischievous side to him. Forging a fake permit with his knowledge of writing Mandarin to the uncultured Thompsons always be legendary. And keep in mind that Chang was probably the first time Chinese could sell themselves in a character. Him not being a caricature or a stereotype and actively contributing to the plot was groundbreaking in the 1930s. So I had to respect him for that. Oh my god, my mouth hurts so much. I had to take a break.
The Adventures of Tintin. We'll be right back on Nick. Now back to the Adventures of Tintin on Nickelodeon.
Alright, if you thought the Blue Lotus was nothing to look out then, ooh boy, this Tintin Tibet has so much more when it comes to interpretation. I don't have much to say involving the history besides a few points of interest, that Hergé was in the midst of a divorce, while simultaneously having nightmares about him being in a white purgatory-like void. I think the final product can show the results of it more tellingly. Unlike the Blue Lotus, Tibet had more adaptations. The original book from 1960, the TV episode, of course, but there's also a BBC radio drama and a fully made musical called Hergé's Adventures of Tintin that ran at the Barbican Theatre from November 29, 2005 to January 21, 2006. As someone who loves obscure musicals based on children's properties, this is my bread and butter. I am so upset I can't watch the whole thing. The only available media I can find was some 2-minute previews and some crusty JPEGs and, an interview, but that's about it. And the way that this one preview showed the first 2 minutes of the show, it just cuts abruptly. It's most likely that there is a full pro shoot and that they just don't want to release it or was recorded for DVDs or something like that. So if anyone who knows about this production or has a home recording or just has any information in general, because it ran for more than a month and went on a short tour in 2007, the likelihood of someone recording the whole thing is possible. Please let me know if it's available or if you can just send it to me or archive it in any kind of way. Preserving any stage show like this or just any media in general is really important, and I have really high hopes that this full musical gets found. Also want to mention that there's also a Tintin in Tibet video game that came out in 1991 on the popular consoles at the time. I'm not going to cover them because they're just the comics, but in game form. The only noteworthy thing about them is that they have a beginning flashback level to the Blue Lotus. Also, I've heard that game is very hard, and I do not want to go through for that just for this video. I just have this footage instead. Tintin in Tibet starts off with Tintin and Haddock on a holiday at this unnamed hotel. Assuming that this place after the last book, I say that they definitely need a relaxation. They play chess in the lobby, and Tintin dozes off and has a nightmare. One where Chang is calling out for him for help. And, after hearing the other interpretations of this same line, I have realized just how much the TV cast has either limited range or just not had a lot of effort put into their performances. Compare Keaton Mine's call for Tintin to the TV show one, and you can clearly see which one's better.
Tintin! Tintin! Who are you? Tintin! Who are you?
Tintin! Tintin!
It sounds so uninterested. Tintin, I lost my car keys. Tintin, can you help me find them? In the audio drama, they actually said these nightmares are actually recorded before this happened, which is an interesting choice since it was probably only made to fit a 22-minute airtime.
Quite stunned by that nightmare, though.
Nightmare. Nothing that a drink wouldn't cure. Talking of which, a waiter!
Ghastly. Chang, my old friend Chang, half buried in snow, calling to me. Help, Tintin, help!
Normal canon reveals that news that there was a plane crash in the Himalayas. One of the missing people listed in the paper is Chang. This makes Tintin interpret this dream as a sign that Chang is in trouble and needs to save him. He has to be alive in order to be able to hear him, right? The rest of the story is just Tintin being so sure that this boy he only knew for about a week maximum is alive. Immediately packing his things to go to Kathmandu, gathering an expedition team to go up to the mountains in freezing temperatures, even hearing about a yeti that supposedly roams the mountains. He's so sick. Finding his friend is ridiculous. Even when they find indicators that he's at least was alive enough to carve his name in a cave and leave a scarf behind, everyone he's with just goes, well, he's not here, let's just go back, I'm tired. And sheer determination never lets up. Also, a nice detail is Tintin wearing the scarf when he finds it. That's really neat. A key moment I want to bring up is the scene where Tintin finally sees Chang in the Yeti's cave. They embrace and it's so sweet, but one line of dialogue really sticks out. In the TV show, Chang says, I knew you would come, but in the original text and every other adaptation, he says, oh, how often I thought of you, or if you knew how often I thought of you.
Oh, my friend, I'm snowy too. How often I have thought of you.
This line change has me the most baffled. It changes so much context about what their relationship is like from Chang's point of view up to this point. Before he got into the plane crash, Chang was still thinking about him, implying that their time together had that much of an impact on him. Changing it to "I knew you would come" still has that impression, but it just doesn't hit as hard. It's like he only thought about him when he's only in danger. It's like not as good. Chang explains how he managed to survive to Tintin and Haddock along with the audience, fainting after the crash and being taken in by the Yeti. In the book, he mentions about having to eat dead animals, which is never mentioned in the show for obvious reasons. After gaining enough strength to write his name down, the Yeti moved him to his own cave where he was found. Now, this adventure is much more different than any scene in the franchise. It's the only time that Tintin is driven by his own emotions to do something. Usually he would call to action because his job requiring him to, or a need to bring someone down to justice when he's personally roped into something, but in Tintin in Tibet, no one is making him fly to Kathmandu to save Chang. This is of his own volition. He is the literal definition of surviving off of stew in a dream. This man goes flying to a different country, goes on a deadly mountain expedition, almost gets injured or worse multiple times, all for a guy who everyone thought was dead and kept telling him as such. Can you tell this was written when the author was in the middle of a divorce? A theory that I have seen that was thought worth interpreting was that the Yeti was an allegory for Tintin and Chang's relationship. The Yeti was painted as evil and monstrous by the rest of the citizens, much like how same-sex and interracial relationships were seen at the time, fear of the unknown and all that. Chang saying, "I hope they never find a Yeti," can mean, "I hope they never find out about us," knowing that society can never accept them for what they are. Okay, semi-related, but while researching, I found this quote from the book Hergé, the man who created Tintin, and I cannot, for the life of me, decipher what it means. Here, the author talks about Hergé's supposed thoughts on the reception of Tibet and quoted this. "It's a story of friendship," he wrote in a letter to Jean Trouillot. "The way people say it's a love story." Aside from it being completely vague about how Hergé felt about people calling it a love story, I cannot find where the quote is from. There is no access to the original letter that was sent, or any proof that it exists in the first place. Yes, Jean Trouillot was involved in Hergé's career, but he never stepped forward about sending letters back and forth to him. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places and the letter is out there somewhere. Please let me know. This has been driving me nuts. I can't do it. Now, you may be wondering why I talk about Chang specifically. Tintin has made many international friends over the years. What makes the first one so special? Yes, there are other one-off characters that Tintin meets, like Abdullah, Zorino, Martine, and Marika, but one, they only appear in their respective stories and then never again, only the one time, and two, they're either way too young or don't click right away to act as love interest for Tintin. Also, please don't bring up Haddock as love interest, just don't. It's obvious that he's a familial figure. Hergé's notes say it, and Tintin being called a boy all the time doesn't really help. So please don't comment about it. Please don't mention it at all. Just because some guy painted them on a building doesn't make it your ship canon. Just leave. No, Tintin and Chang have a special relationship compared to everyone else. From what we covered, the pair get along right away, saving each other, casually touching and joking, just being a great duo overall. Hell, you can even categorize Chang as being a damsel in distress archetype for how much Tintin saves him from danger. A trope that's often used in romantic couples. Speaking of Tintin, we see him act around Chang so naturally. We see him laugh, cry, get mad, and joke around. It makes sense. He's finally with someone his age and just be a kid, and not just a boy reporter. It feels like Tintin can fully be himself when he's with him. Also, that psychic soulmate connection that Tintin does in Tibet, he doesn't do that anywhere else. Not for any other character for the rest of the series. Only done in this and nothing else.
It wasn't real.
I know, but it wasn't an ordinary dream. It was a sort of premonition, telepathy, something like that.
Steady on.
It is not confirmed that Chang can also do this, but I don't know, imagining Chang just getting snippets of stuff that happened in prior books is entertaining. That whole plot point is very similar to soulmate fanfiction that I have read. And yes, I know platonic soulmates can exist, but from what we were given, but it's not hard to see it as romantic coded. But I hear your screams in the comments, "Oh, you can't say they're gay, it wasn't the author's intent. Gay people hadn't existed." Mama's taking over. I mean, I'm just saying, you're the one who clicked on the rainbow thumbnail. I'm just saying, but Seriously, I'm not saying that Hergé purposely made them gay or even queer-coded. He didn't make Chang with the purpose of being Tintin's love interest, I know that. In Tintin in Tibet, a main theme that is stated by the synopsis and throughout the book is friendship. Nothing deeper, but to say that there's only one way to view a story is, well, one-minded. Many different people can see a work of art and have their own takeaway from what it means or what it represents. Each piece of art and storytelling is open to interpretation, and Hergé never confirmed that Tintin is a straight male, nor Chang, nor any other of his characters. Just wanted to write and draw out a story for his audience. And I'm just a person who read his works and wanted to give my thoughts on it. I have no power in confirming that Tintin and Chang are in a relationship or have romantic tension. I'm not asking for a new Tintin book or a show or movie to go and make them a couple. As great as that sounds, I just want bands, both old and new, to talk about LGBT plus themes without getting ostracized. Whether it be an article or a blog post or like the fan art that got me here in the first place. Maybe you'll watch this video and want to read the comics or watch the show or even try to track down that lost musical. I highly encourage if you do, if it means engagement with others. So my final thoughts to you is this. Analyzing older media can be uncomfortable. Something that was okay then can be hard to sit through now, and you can't gloss over it because of how much it sticks out. Chang is not a perfect representation of a Chinese person. His whole series is not perfect with his representation. That's my guess on why no one talks about him. Because saying that his relationship with Tintin has gay elements will just be another argument on whether it stands the test of time.